All right, we are at the tail end of 2022, heading right into holidays. And before we head into holidays, I thought it would be good for you and I to catch up, Paul,
Yep.
and run through our predictions for what's going to happen in 2023.
Yeah, now this could have been a long list, Mal, so I'd be interested to see how you've managed to cull this down to 5.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to be going through 5 each. So I'm going to do a prediction, and then Paul's going to do a prediction. We're going to have our top 10, or as it stands on the 23rd of December, because things are moving very quickly as they do in e-commerce land. So I'm going to get started. The first one, which I have, is that the middle is going to get squeezed. So by that, I mean that a lot of brands who are going to be operating at the lower cost end, but also at a more premium, better differentiated end of the market, they're going to be the ones, I think, in the next 24 months, 12 to 24 months, they're going to do really well. The ones who I feel are going to run into a lot of trouble are pretty much anyone in the middle who is a very undifferentiated offering. You know, people who don't really have a clear, distinct differentiation from their competitors. They're going to be the ones to struggle. I'm already starting to see some of that already in the last few months. With particularly with Black Friday, looking at brands which have done well versus brands who have struggled a little bit through this period, who I work with quite closely. The ones with really clear differentiation, they're doing really great, and they're going into next year really strong. But the ones who haven't been able to differentiate themselves from their competitors, they're the ones who are probably going to feel the pain a little bit unless they can resolve that in the next 12 to 16 months, 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I like that, Mal. I think I had something similar in that I think you've got an analogy that you use. I can't remember. It might be something about lipstick or something like that.
The lipstick effect.
Yeah, lipstick effect. And I think you're right. So I think the middle is a tough place to be in the next year. And I think we're obviously here in Australia and around the world, in the States, suffering the effects of inflation and rising interest rates. So actually we're being encouraged to spend less. So I guess that leaves two people reasonably safe, which is the bottom price leaders, because people are shopping around for, like my father-in-law, for cheaper cherries over Christmas. But the other end of town, as you say, is probably fine. So I know that, for instance, the sales of luxury watches increased over COVID. So there is always a desire to have something special. And I think the brands, my point here is the power of brand. And if your brand has something special, I guess the power of brand and product. If you have something special, you're okay. And you're absolutely right, Mal. There are businesses in the middle who probably have just really felt the pinch lately and will really continue to do so next year because they just don't differentiate. Whereas on the other hand, we're seeing some businesses who are innovating and bringing out great product and constantly improving their product that are actually having record profit months. And that's pleasing to hear. So yeah, I agree. I think my point would be brand will reign supreme. If I could condense that, I actually wrote brand overpaid. I think more and more marketers that you talk to are scrambling for ideas. Businesses are scrambling for ideas. Everyone wants to talk about the privacy changes related to iOS. And I think it's time to forget about that. It's done and dusted. We've got to move on. And I actually think that's the change we needed, because way too many founders were thinking about paid media all the time and not going to bed dreaming about their product and how it was going to change the world. So I actually think founders need to go back to brand, back to product, relax on paid a little bit. Obviously, you need a great agency and someone running your paid and doing the job. But it's all of the activity that you do as founders with your product, your brand, your customer service, you're creating memorable moments. All of that sort of stuff is going to drive you forward next year. So brand overpaid for 2023 for me, Mel.
Love it. That's number 2. So number 3 is for us today is that I think customer onboarding is going to become really, really important, more important than ever. Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, a lot of retailers have been able to get fat on new customer acquisition, a lot of money in the market, a lot of people just coming in, trialing a lot of different products. So we saw a lot of them grow quite a lot up until mid 2022. But since then, we're seeing a rise in CACs, poorer LTVs, and brands really struggling and kind of getting too addicted to that paid drug to grow, rather than actually looking at how do we actually grow a sustainable business and really understanding their CAC and their LTV ratios. So for me, a big one, I think next year is going to be a lot of focus for brands on really what's your first time buyer, that first 90 days after the customer buys from you. What does that journey look like so that we can turn people into repeat customers? You're not just buying that one time from you, but buying your second or third and beyond from you. So I probably see a really strong place for platforms like Klaviyo and Ecommerce, who are fantastic at doing this stuff. And a lot of people, really looking at how do we leverage more out of those platforms to be able to orchestrate what that first 90 days of a customer's journey with you looks like, so that we can turn them from one-time customers to loyal customers.
Yeah, I like it. And it's never ceases to surprise me how many retailers of decent sizes don't have the basic flows set up to welcome the customers into their business, or have maybe 3 or 4 flows out of 10 or more that should probably be in the business. And that actually segues nicely into my next one, which was the rise of SMS. So I think Australia's in a unique position because we have this implied consent in that you can send an SMS to somebody if they're your customer. They don't have to opt in. The privacy laws in the US are different, so you can't do that. But I'm not suggesting everybody turns into Kogan and sends messages that we never knew we needed. However, I'm seeing great results with SMS. 40 to 50% open rates and a fantastic return on ad spend. And I'm just anecdotally hearing more brands talking about it. And when you dive into it, whether that be SMS Bump or through Klaviyo, they seem to be the 2 main ones. I'm seeing some really, really good results. Probably to your point, Mal, integrating it into the overall CRM strategy. So it's not going to replace email. It might sit as part of your flows, your win-back campaigns, and so on. And you might reserve it for sale periods or 2 or 3 times a year only. But I think that as brands look for more and more ways to grow their business and search for new channels, CRM has to be a focus. What I feel is a little untapped at the moment is SMS.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think SMS has been kind of underdone over the last few years. A lot of people are now looking at SMS, but like anything else, you got to be careful how you use it. You can't just spam. It's going to be very expensive for you just to blast your entire database. So, big tip for me would be to really look at segmenting that, looking at who's most likely to actually engage with the SMS, monitoring those results really closely. The last thing you want is just to be sending out a heap of SMSs, annoying customers who end up unsubscribing anyway. So really focusing on who you're sending it to, but also what's the offer going to be. SMSs work best when it is direct response, and there's actually an ask there rather than just like we've launched a new campaign, launch a new collection or something like that. So my third prediction and our fifth for this video is that there's going to be increased regulation coming for TikTok. TikTok over the last 2 years, unless you've been living under a rock, has pretty much been the media darling. Their growth has been phenomenal. A lot of advertisers flocking to that platform. And in terms of their streaming numbers, more people watching TikTok than all other streaming services combined. So that's been phenomenal. But what we've seen the last few months is that their user growth has started to slow. And while a lot of advertisers have reallocated some of their budget to TikTok, and that's only going to continue as people want to trial new platforms, a lot of people are really struggling to find the value in that as well, largely through the ongoing issues with attribution, which is a topic unto itself. So what I see there in particular with not just the attribution problem, but also with increased regulation coming for TikTok as well. Obviously, the Chinese ownership in the US in particular, does pose a big concern around security and things like that. So it's inevitable that there's going to be more regulation, coming for TikTok in terms of how that company is structured. And I feel that is probably going to start scaring away some larger advertisers who, coupled with the attribution problem, means that their growth as a platform, but also in terms of advertising as well, may be slowing. That then I think opens the door for Meta, which over the last 12 to 18 months, the stock price has taken a battering, with Mark Zuckerberg's forays into the metaverse, as well as, as advertising with iOS 14, et cetera, which a lot of people not sure how to judge that platform. I feel that Meta's going to be making some inroads into this area. So I feel that, they're going to be the beneficiary of, potentially a lot of people looking at TikTok and being a little bit scared off, through the added regulation which is coming there.
Yeah, love it. I've just eliminated my TikTok one because I had that as well. So I'm not I'm not going to repeat everything you've got, Mal. I think my next tip would be, or my next prediction would be back to growth. Now that's going to be a weird one because in 2022, a lot of the industry did still grow. It just didn't grow year on year because of, for obvious reasons. But a lot of businesses started to sort of decline around January, February, March, and had a steady decline. Not all, but some, particularly anyone who started during the pandemic, I think got a little bit lost last year, and a lot of them started to struggle. I think back to normal growth is probably what's going to happen in 2023. So that doesn't mean we're going to see the crazy numbers of 2021, but I think we'll sort of be back on the trend line from 2019 onwards. And my prediction extends out to over the next decade, e-commerce reaching 50-50 with traditional retail. And that's exciting. So this prediction is designed to, I guess, inspire a little bit of excitement. Why wouldn't it get to 50-50? We've got, as people like you and I get older, Mal, think about our kids and how their behaviors will be online. We think we're good online shoppers and you're a great online shopper. Imagine what our kids will be like. So as the younger generation progresses to get older, we saw David Jones sell for an absolute song, $120 million this week. And is that surprising? Not really. It's a sign of the times. That is absolutely, bricks and mortar is always going to have a place. I love a showroom. I love the touch and feel, and I think that it can go hand in hand with a digital experience. But there's absolutely no way anybody can tell me that e-commerce won't be 50% of traditional retail over the next decade. What does that mean for 2023? Again, a nice little bit of growth. So I think that anybody who's either thinking about getting into the space absolutely can. And should, it's not too late. And any businesses who are wondering economically, yeah, it's pretty unpredictable, but just consumer behavior is heading more and more digital. So I think that e-commerce will continue to be a prosperous activity in 2023.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that one, Paul. I think, it is just like the natural trend of things. Things are going to move more digitally. I guess, one thing is that, not everyone is going to grow. And I'd probably just like to add that bit there that, it's not like the whole industry is going to grow. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. And I think, we're already starting to see that where, there's been some very high profile companies going, online retailers, pure players going into administration lately. So I think the ones who are going to be able to continue that growth, as an industry, I feel we're going to grow like collectively, like the pie is going to get bigger. But in terms of who has what slice of the pie, I think that's going to be really dependent on the ones who are actually good operators as well. Because I think particularly in this market, we need to be, you have to operate efficiently. You have to understand how you operate as a business. Going back to, one thing you talk a lot about with like, the 50-30-20 rule, and making sure you understand your margins, you understand, what are all your input costs, you understand what your stock holding is. So if you know all that, I think you've got a really good chance to grow.
Yep, I totally agree. The point about that was the optimistic side, and I agree with you that there will be plenty of businesses who will not grow because for all of those reasons that you just said, Mal, it's sort of there's a lot more to an e-commerce business than just running a sale and dropping a new product. It's a serious business that needs great margins and all of the inputs that go into it. And I think it's we've spoken about this. There's been a lot of bad habits formed over the last couple of years, and we probably see them now. We're lucky enough to speak to a lot of different businesses, and you get in, and people come to you with good problems, and people come to you with bad problems. And the bad problems that people come to you with are literally, we don't know what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. Somehow we made a bit of money. That's not happening anymore. I'd like to make money again.
All right. Now, my fourth prediction, we're in the home stretch here. So my fourth prediction is, again, a fairly macro one. This is about Shopify, where I think Shopify, are going to continue to become a real behemoth in the e-commerce space.
Now, yours are like, you've literally read my.
You should have gone first. We probably should have compared these when we started. I think Shopify is going to become even more of a behemoth. Like, even though, yes, they did make some cuts. Toby, the CEO and founder, did say that that he overestimated the growth, which is going to happen. But I still think Shopify are going to continue to find ways to grow. know that while their core business isn't growing anymore, you can start to see with all the acquisitions they're doing now as well, you know, that they're just starting to add on more and more services, which are part of that e-commerce ecosystem, you know, whether it's buy now, pay later, whether it's like financing, you know, whether it's like even influencer and talent management, right? They're starting to bring on all these things and starting to offer that free, which is incredible for the users. That, though, I think is going to also open up an opportunity that while Shopify continues to grow and continues to add on more and more things, they're effectively going to almost become the Salesforce CRM, where, you know, 20 years ago, Salesforce was like, you know, a blip, but now Salesforce, you know, is the new Oracle. You know, it's like almost like Shopify is moving from being, you know, the plucky upstart to now actually being the biggest game in town, which I feel is actually going to open up some additional opportunities as well, you know, with smaller players, you know, with perhaps another e-commerce platform, you know, which is a bit leaner, which is a little bit more focused to come in, because the Shopify continues to grow. It's going to add on more and more services, and hopefully that doesn't disrupt the core platform, because you and I both love Shopify. A lot of our clients use Shopify. But it's just going to be an interesting one to watch, whether Shopify gets too big and what that means for the end user, the retailer's experience.
That's a really good point. You know, and I agree, like looking now at the trend line with Shopify versus something like Magento, it's absolutely dominating Magento, and you know, Google Trends are still pointing upwards for Shopify. So it's sort of no signs of slowing down as being the preferred platform in e-commerce, I think. But you're right, there's a risk of too many distractions. Shopify fulfillment network, they've got a lot of things happening that maybe is they need to focus on their core. I think Salesforce is a confusing beast now. It was pretty clear what it was, and then I think that it tried to be everything to all people, and it sort of alienated people from, you know, what does it actually do? And I think everybody knows exactly what Shopify stands for, and their challenge will be to stay true to the little merchants that can start in the garage and then turn into your gym sharks. That's why people love Shopify.
Yeah, but if you want to know more about Shopify, there's a great book you can read. Yeah,
Shopify for Dummies, which is usually I've got one lurking around, but not on me at the moment. But yep, love that one. My next prediction for 2023 is not going to surprise anybody. It's just the continued growth of mobile commerce. You know, mobile commerce is on the rise. I think it nearly tipped 50% of all e-commerce transactions in the US last year, and it will absolutely blitz that number in 2023. And you could imagine that Australia will probably follow suit. I think what to do with that prediction? Well, I think a lot of brands, Mal, are still designing desktop first, and I think we need to just forget about that. Not forget about it, but really focus more on mobile. It's still a large number of businesses who are sitting there building their Shopify stores or whatever on their desktop and actually forgetting to look at it in mobile view at all, or checking how it functions in mobile view. Will that mean more and more apps? Maybe. I don't think an app is necessarily the next big thing. Apps do well for larger businesses typically, but I don't think if you're a small business, you really need to dive into an app. But I guess there'll be a point in time where probably every e-commerce business will have an app. Platforms like Tapcart and so on that make that pretty easy. But I think optimized content for mobile, and that might seem like a very 2017 tip, but the number of businesses who are still not optimizing for mobile. And the example of that is anybody listening could check in their Google Analytics right now, and they'll find probably the most amount of sessions on mobile, maybe 50-50 with desktop, but they'll almost certainly find that their conversion rate on mobile is lower. That might have something to do with purchase intent, but it is also a sign to take mobile conversion rates seriously and make sure websites are optimized for mobile.
The number of times I still see a mock-up for a new site which is done on desktop first, and my first question is, where's the mobile?
Almost always.
It's like, why are you doing it in desktop? Like mobile, 60% traffic is coming from mobile. Exactly. That's one poll. Look, it's funny because I think a lot of the predictions, like they're cyclical as well, and you realize that, you know, like I dare say if I thought back 20 years ago to what I was thinking about in digital marketing, a lot of things still haven't haven't been actioned, or they're still on the way, maybe. Cool. So number 9 is that this is a more positive one for me to end on, is that I think talent shortages will actually start to ease in 2023. So the last year or so, there's been obviously with the Great Resignation, which is going on, a lot of talent moving between different e-commerce players in the industry has created a bit of a shortage. I know that a lot of brands I work with have experienced that as well, and it's been a bit of a struggle to hire because there's not the talent pool has shrunk to some degree. But my feeling on this is that particularly with migration opening up again, borders reopening again, and Australia continue to be a really, really attractive destination in terms of we've got a relatively stable government, we've got beautiful weather, we've got a great lifestyle. We're still a super attractive country, for people who want to come and live. I was speaking with someone from the US yesterday who was desperate to come down to migrate to Australia, and people from South America I know as well who are moving over here very soon. So I think there's going to be a huge backlog of really skilled digital talent who are looking to move over, which is going to really open the doors in, but also hopefully level us up as well by bringing in more outside people who've had other experiences coming to Australia. I feel that's only going to raise the bar, in terms of the talent and the capabilities which we have available to retailers in Australia.
That's a great one. Gee, it's been a hard year for hiring. When you explain it that way, yeah, borders closed, not getting the talent in, we're not learning from that talent, and I think we've really missed that. I totally agree. There are certain certain skill sets in other countries that we can learn from here. In apparel, I typically find that the best merchandise planners or buyers tend to be UK based. I don't know why that is. Yeah, it just seems to be the way, and I love hearing them go about their thing, and I love seeing them teach some of our younger apparel people here, younger buyers here. So I think open those borders back up, and more talent is only a good thing. So that's a good one, Mal. I like that. What are we up to? Final one. Well, this is interesting because number 10, because I've actually chosen a people one as well. I find that one of the roles that I think is absolutely worth their money right now are content creators. Call that videographers, call that whatever, photographers. They seem to be one and the same now, and there are some amazing ones out there. Why I think that the rise of the content creator and the rise of content is queen or king, is because it has gotten harder to get cut through in your ads. You spoke about Facebook ads, Meta. That's always going to have a place. So how do we get better on that platform? And I think nobody really wants to see boring, static ads. And if you think about this, if we break it down for a moment and think about what people are doing with their spare time, they're on Instagram. YouTube's got Reels and video. We've got TikTok, which you said is getting more eyeballs for a longer period of time than Netflix. You've got streaming. Video is everything. It just doesn't make any sense that people will be sitting there watching videos and then will all of a sudden be appealed by a static ad, a boring ad showing the product on Facebook. So what I'm seeing is the brands who have invested in content creation appear to be getting real cut through, not just in terms of ads, but in terms of engaging with their community. So I think in 2023, it doesn't matter what you're selling, even if you're in the service industry, you should be looking to turn the camera on yourself and provide content. And I guess that's what we're doing right now, Mal, but we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to speak with authority and show that Paul and Mal know what they're talking about. We're trying to sell something and say, this chair is better than that chair, and here's why. And video is simply a great channel for doing that. And I think that it needs to get better. And there are certain brands that are really lifting the bar when it comes to content creation. And I think that's going to set the new expectation. And it's really not that difficult to get a great videographer on your books and produce one day a week dedicated to fantastic content. So I like the idea that brands in 2023 will invest more in content. Maybe that even means pulling a little bit out of your paid media and investing a little bit more into the creative, which should then feed the paid media. But I like the idea of brands focusing on really strong content that can be repurposed across all of the channels we've been talking about: Meta, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So I think that the 2023 is the year of the content creator.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I no arguments for that one. That was great, Paul. It's funny, like you're sounding more and more like a marketer every day.
Yeah, well, I'm learning from the best, Mal.
And I'm talking about margins more than I ever have.
I love it. It's true. It's so true.
So I think it's going to be really fun for us to revisit these in 12 months' time and see how many of these have come true.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, no, we'll absolutely do that. Look, thanks everyone for joining us today. We hope everyone has a great Christmas and holiday period. And here's to a really successful 2023.
Yep, and I'd echo that. Have a great Christmas, everybody. May your sales be high and your returns